This is Andrew with Drake Custom Bass. I'm back today for another repair. This is obviously not a bass. This is a Orangewood guitar Juniper Sunburst Live series. I don't see a model number. Orangewood. And the problem with this one is that it has suffered a bit of a fall, slip, trip, and fall. Actually, it was reported to me that it was sitting on the ground around a campfire, and apparently somebody stepped on the actual neck. Let's see if I can't reveal the extent of the damage here. Yeah, I can see truss rod down in there. Basically, let's get it on its back here. Started right about the scarf joint and it's broken, and the fingerboards come away all along, all the way along here. And what we're going to try to do is glue it back together. The thing is, this is maybe a $400 or $500 guitar at the most, maybe even less. It may be somewhat difficult. I tell you what, the first thing that needs to happen when something like this happens is the strings need to come off. That tension on the brake is just, it's not helping anything at all. It's not that old of a guitar, obviously. We still got the purchasing tag string on it. Okay, this is something I have not ever seen before. It's a wood core, but this is rubber. It did have flat wound strings on here, so I'm assuming this was some kind of a lap steel style. I think that was what this was intended for, possibly. This acts, I don't know. I've never seen a bridge this wide and made out with a rubber coating on it. That's a new one for me. I've never experienced that before. Okay, that truss rod cover bounced up like that. That was actually due to the fact that everything had shifted back in. Let me see if I can get this at an angle. I've actually pushed it back down in there, but there was actually a lot. I had to kind of squish this part of the neck downwards once I hold everything together, and it all pops back into place fairly easily. I had to order some surgical tubing that we're going to actually use as the clamp, since this is not a, it's a rounded surface on the back side, and we want to get good even pressure, and I don't just want to pinch with clamps and down the middle. I want to pull the sides in nice and tight too. So this is a common method that we're going to use for this repair. First, I'm going to try to get into there and scrape out any old glue if I can. But I decided I'm going to use fish glue to do this repair, because if it isn't going to hold, or if it fails again, I'm going to have to remove this fingerboard to do a proper surface preparation and skin off the back of the fingerboard, the old glue down to bare wood, things like that. So fish glue will make it more reversible later on. I don't have any hot hide glue here at the moment, but I think the fish glue will be just fine. It's the sheathing around the truss rod, and it actually goes all the way up to that cylinder shaped adjustment area. That way it seals off so that glue is not going to get into the truss rod and make it so it doesn't function. That's been a concern, but it is completely sealed off, so yes, when I apply the glue in there, it's not going to hurt anything. However, I am going to try to keep as much out of that area as possible. And got my injector here, and I'm going to start on this piece down here, and then we'll flip it over and get glue. Now this glue is easily cleaned up with water later on, so I'm not even worried about if I get it on other things here. Okay. Okay, so now I gotta get some down into here. Get it flipped over. It sometimes is actually better when the whole thing is broken clean off, and you can prepare surfaces a little better, things like that. But the fact that it's still connected kind of also helps in a way, because it holds everything together. It all seems to want to go back together, so I have to pry out a little bit here. You're gonna have to reload here. Stand by. Okay. Believe it or not, surgical tubing actually works rather well for this. Alright, glue set up for a couple days. We're going to see how good we did. This tubing's probably totally trashed, which is fine. I wasn't really expecting that it was going to survive. I've never used the fish glue with rubber surgical tubing before, so it was a learning experience all the way around. I'm not sure the fish glue is the best way to do that. That stuff got really sticky really quick, but again, it gives me the opportunity that if for some reason this didn't line up very well or something shifted, I can reverse it fairly easy. Okay, so yeah, there's a couple chips in the finish that were missing and along the sides, but everything seems to line up fairly well. The neck's on there straight, it didn't shift around. So I am going to have to treat and fill some of these little cracks and areas, but that was all expected and planned. So I'm going to get a damp cloth and wipe up the excess glue here. Okay, I have just a damp blue shop towel. And that's going to reactivate that fish glue. And it should clean it up fairly well. Yeah, it's actually wiped right off. Yeah, that's relatively nice and tight there. Seems to be a little bit of a gap between the binding, but that's actually a little chips of finish removed, and I'm going to address that with some glue boost. Get that looking as best I can. Yep, I can live with this. And there's a little bit of glue sticking out, but that will all be good. We'll take care of that. Alright, I'll get back to it in a couple days after the glue's had a chance to dry a little bit longer. Okay, so I mixed up a little glue boost with some stain. And we're going to try to fill some of these little gaps. See if we can't make them disappear. This is areas where the finish is chipped out. Hit it with some accelerator. So it doesn't run out of there. I used a little nut repair powder and some super glue to fix a piece of chipped out binding because it matched the color pretty well. So now I'm just going to go back and try to take down some of the height of the fill that we used. Finish on this guitar neck is actually rather thick, so I have a long way to go before I actually cut through it, so I'll be able to sand and clean up a lot of this repair. Alright, as with these things, usually they have to look like they're getting worse before they get better. but the finish is so thick, and the fingerboard and the binding split away, it left this jagged edge. There's little micro cracks all along here, and when everything glued back up, you could feel just a little bit of that lip on there. So I glue boosted it, and now I'm just going to go back and clean off the excess with a very fine tooth file, and then I'll sand, and then I'll wet sand, and we should be there. I'll be able to get strings on this in a day or so. We're up to the wet sanding process. We're not going to be spraying any kind of finish. We're just asked to make it so you can't feel the repair, and you cannot. So the customer said scars are fine on guitars as long as you can't feel them. Yeah, that will do. I'm going to touch up. There was a big chip out here, and I filled it with some black fill, and I'm just going to try to match it to the face of the peg head is a flat black, so I'm going to try to match that here real quick. And that should do it. Now the nut's glued in. Well, while I'm waiting for that paint to dry, there are some sharp edges on some of these frets. So I'm just going to clean those off a little bit. Some little burrs, and I find this on instruments in this price range. These frets may be okay on this side, but they always neglect the bass side, and I can feel these snaggy little ends right here. So I'm just going to see what I can do to clean those up, make those a little bit nicer. And a little super fine grit sandpaper and oil, just to smooth and clean up the fingerboard. I use beeswax and orange oil mixture for this. Then I go back over it with a very fine grit abrasive pad. And using a little bit of the fret polishing erasers. A couple different grits here. Alright, we've gotten strings onto the Orangewood Acoustic that had the neck damage, and I think we did pretty good. You can see some of the repairs, but you can't really feel them. The neck's not flying off, so I think the glue is holding nicely. I got the action set, it's nice, and no adjustment needed there. I have not used a rubber bridge before, but apparently that's an upcoming thing. So, okay, this is my first experience with it, and it actually does intonate. I wouldn't have thought so. We have it. I've checked the electronics. And as you saw in the video, I checked the frets, did some polishing and dressing the sharp ends. And so yeah, we are all ready for the big dance with this one. So, you know, stay tuned. We have more videos on the way. Thanks for watching.